Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on the Day In, Day Out podcast, on episode 157. 157. Wow. I was very lucky to have a Denis Estimon on. He is an entrepreneur, speaker, change maker, and soon to be author as well. We talked about many things on the podcast today. We talked about how he got things, like how he got started with his sort of motivational vibe, how people would sort of manage their time, amongst talking about like his podcast, and yeah, and what sort of change he would like to like try to help people find or and do. I got to say he is a very motivational fella. I got to say he is a 22-year-old going on to the realms of 55. His knowledge and yeah, just basically his fortitude, second to none. A joy to speak to, and yeah, I feel more rich in knowing him today. Anyway, what I would simply say to you, my friends, my life warriors, please subscribe to the podcast. It does help us out immensely. Also, please enjoy the show. Have a great day, guys, and yeah, enjoy the show. Yeah. Peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 157, I have Denis Estimon. Now, this guy. He is a entrepreneur, speaker, change maker. He has a book coming out somewhere in the near future. And yeah, he is here today. Dennis, how are you, sir? How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm still alive. Thank you for having me on your show.
The pleasure's all mine. The pleasure's all mine. You know what? Now, I have to ask this question, like just to sort of kick this off. When you were a young lad in Haiti, did you ever see your sort of path like evolving into this? Your path of
Uh, wait, repeat that one more time.
when you were a young lad in Haiti, did you ever see your path evolving into what it is today?
Oh man, no, not at all. Not at all. I often say, when I communicate is even today, I'm not a perfect person, but I'm a progressing person. And I say I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I'm also nowhere where I used to be.
Mm.
So I say a lot of the things that have happened in my life and a lot of the things that I continue to do, I've actually stumbled into. And in Haiti, I had no idea I'd be here today. One of the reasons I believe that is proximity. The further you are away from something, the
Mm.
harder it is to get perspective and clarity on, all that you can become.
Mm.
So, my dreams when I was in Haiti is I wanted to be a soccer star. I wanted to play soccer. At one time, I wanted to be in movies. Um, but no idea, man. No idea that I'd be here today. And to be honest, I don't fully know where I'll be tomorrow. But sometimes that you when you can't tell the next, you just got to do the most with the now. So
Mm.
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
No, like this is a thing. Now, like one of the things I would say quite unusual. You decided to become like a musketeer. You were over in the States for a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden you decided to raise up a sword, become a musketeer, be like Porthos, Aramis. Oh, and never can remember the third musketeer's name.
I can't either.
Yeah,
But
but like I can't say D'Artagnan because hey, D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers.
it's funny that you said that because I've actually worked for and with the brand Three Musketeers.
Okay. It's like, and yet you're like, no, can't remember. Like, who's the third musketeer?
I've
No.
worked with the brand, so it's funny that you said that.
Ah. So how did you become a musketeer? Can you tell?
Yeah, I mean, well, so my story, I guess what I'm known for this organization that I started called We Dine Together.
Yeah.
And essentially, part of my story coming here from the to the United States from Haiti is experiencing the social, and emotional challenges of assimilating to a new environment, right? I think we all, to some degree, whether it's being the new school or going to a new job or being the new, employee somewhere, or even the new owner somewhere, there's definitely challenges with entering a new environment. And when you enter a new environment, all you can think of is, how do I survive? How do I survive? How do I survive? So
Yeah.
I've been through that. I experienced that from elementary school, not being able to speak the language. And I say part of my story now is I came here not being able to speak the language, and now I have the honor and the privilege to speak all over the country. But I think, part of that for me, of the things that I've done, some of the things that I was a part of, like the Three Musketeers brand, is just doing the most with what I have. I was never a person that had it all planned out, had it all figured out. I was a person that always had the idea. I know, where I kind of wanted to go, but I had no clue on the steps to get there. But the one thing that I did is, I've always just made the most of, where the season that I was in. I'm a firm believer that you have to add value to that which you value. You have to care for that which you care for. So for me, I did whatever I can to, serve in my community. So the way I did that was starting that We Dine Together program. Essentially what that was in high school, what I did is I brought people together during the lunchtime to just simply dine together. Because I'm a firm believer that once you break bread with other people that may not look like you, other people that may not talk like you, other people that might even be from the same, geographical location. Once you break bread with people, you actually break barriers. And one of the things that we're doing on this podcast today is we're actually breaking bread. We're not necessarily eating food, but we are sitting down and we're having conversation. And what that does is that breaks barriers, that creates new insights. So that's what I did in the high school.
Yeah.
And once I did that, I noticed that there was a group of people that didn't necessarily have a group to call their own. And that's how We Dine Together came about. So on Tuesdays, we'd bring people together, and all I said is, hey, I have food, come through. And I'm telling you, that room was packed. But then once they got there, we would engage in conversations. We would do different activities, and a community started to form. And then on the days when we weren't doing that, what happened was we would go back out into the courtyard and we'd actually find people that were sitting by themselves. Long story short, CBS picked up the story, ABC picked up the story, People Magazine, a whole bunch of people picked up the story. And, you can go back on Facebook and you'll see, Facebook posts with 100,000, comments of how, somebody, spent their whole high school career, eating lunch by themselves in a bathroom stall. And what you saw is a community was formed. And then soon after that, brands like Three Musketeers reached out to me to be an ambassador. That was something called the Throw Shine campaign. So, at that time, it was about spreading positivity. What can we do to spread positivity on a national scale? So with that, I got the chance to do some pretty cool things, and but yeah, my story, man, is just, what happens when you take the step to do something today to better your tomorrow. That's how I would summarize my story. So that's how I became a musketeer.
Like, yes, a little bit less of the swashbuckling, but nevertheless, like fighting for a noble cause. And like, yeah, when you say, yeah, breaking bread, I am a strong believer in, yeah, conversation in this world is more like one of the most powerful things you can do today, because like conversation basically makes things grow, like ideas come to life. And basically, if they're good ideas, they flourish and grow. If they're bad ideas, they just fade away and die. You could say it's natural selection through like the power of words. And yeah, I do like the whole sort of thing of, yeah, sitting down, having a meal with someone, basically sharing a communal space. And I think it's so much harder when you're in high school sometimes, if you get caught, how not mindset, maybe like a particular way of people seeing you or people seeing themselves, like not really fitting in. Like,
yeah.
Would you say the conversations what sprang out of you guys meeting, was it more sort of organic, or was it sort of more of a group-led thing?
It sometimes, either or, both and.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: when you're in an environment like that, or not even just high school, but you see it in any setting,
Mm,
any social setting, I say that we are all social beings, but we're not very welcoming beings. You know, even myself, if you meet me, if you see me at a coffee shop, I seem like an introvert. Well, to some degree, I am an introvert.
right.
So I'm the type of person I can spend hours by myself. I can sit at my idea of a good time is sitting at a coffee shop for like 6, 7 hours, just reading a book, planning, doing different things.
Mm,
But also I can get in front of an audience or I can get in a group setting and I can be the most extroverted guy there. Um, so really the way we so when we did those activities, sometimes it was organic conversation, or we would always start off with organic conversation, but we also had to have the intentionality, knowing that some of the people that were going to show up were people who were uncomfortable in that group setting, or maybe they weren't willing to open up, maybe because it's past trauma or perception, whatever that may be. So we intentionally had people who would go around and just spark conversation. And then when it came time to group discussion, it would always follow after I brought up a topic, anywhere from, social injustice to, family life. And then people would go around and they would, share kind of like their experience. Like I remember I did this training with this organization and I went and I flew out and I did this leadership training. And then I stayed for somebody else's training. And what that person did was story sharing. And
mm,
within story sharing, people kind of went around and just shared their story, each person going for 5 minutes. And this was probably a group of 10 to 12 people. But by the time everybody was done, the whole group was absolutely bawling. And what you notice is as every single individual shared their story,
mm,
what happened is you realize that, hey, this person is the opposite skin tone of me, but we are so alike. This person is the opposite gender of me, but we are so alike. I would have never guessed that this person that lived in this neighborhood had that going on in their home.
mm.
So what happened is what communication, like we're talking about, what communication did is it brought people who would never probably even communicate with each other or even interact outside of that formal environment. It brought us closer to a degree that it was just unbelievable. But
Mm.
that's the power, and that's what happens when two people or a group of people can come together and form conversation, whether it's organized or whether it's just organic conversation.
Mm. I see. Like with that, like with all like this, the lead and organic conversation. What did anything sort of like anything new sort of germinate out of that? Did any sort of like other things, like other movements, come out of like all of this new conversation, or was it just a case of it was just the community of your school at the time was being brought together much closer?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen several movements form from that little thing that we started.
Mm,
One, what we did, it grew to a national scale. That's one. But then what happened too is other people came on and they saw the power of community and they begin to replicate similar things. In fact, one day I was doing a photo shoot for this program, this other program that I was rolling out. And when I was doing that photo shoot, I was in my downtown area. And then as I'm in my downtown area, some kids were calling me from the balcony. They're
mm.
like, hey Dennis, come here, come here, come here. I'm like, what is going on here? But then they came down. And as they came down, they came and they greeted me and they told me how they were part of what I started. And because of what I started, they went and actually formed this new organization themselves. I've had another story of, I remember when I graduated high school, I got this leadership award and I closed off graduation. But then I remember, the following year, one of the people that kind of took on that award that kind of started from me, he came to me and said, "Hey, like I was the recipient of basically your award,
Mm.
uh, and this is what I started." And so now my whole entire platform essentially is helping people start their movements. And I can talk a little bit about, what I believe it takes to start a movement if you want me to go into that.
Hey, look, this is the thing. When like a whole thing about the way I see it, when you talk about starting a movement, it's like one of those things where so many of us are sort of stop-start individuals. I class myself in that way. I'm going to
Yeah.
start this. I start, I stop, I start, stop, and then
Right.
all of a sudden it's like, okay, I've got the momentum building. So with like starting a movement, what are some of the key things you've seen? What are the key things you've learned over the course of time?
Yeah, so it started in you make a really good point, by the way. It's easy to start something, but it's very difficult to continue something.
Mm.
Because what you'll realize is whenever you start anything, whether it be an organization, a company, a business, a church, a ministry, whatever it may be, it's very easy to kind of just start from somewhere. But it's very hard and very difficult sometimes to actually scale it,
Yeah.
to see it grow, to see it flourish, to see it become something. But in the topic of movement, quickly, let me define what I believe a movement is.
Go for
I
it.
believe that a movement isn't just an organization,
Mm.
right? I believe that a movement is actually an organism, and it has different parts to actually create and sustain life. Now, just like you and I, we are both organisms and we have different parts in our body that are working in cohesion to actually sustain life.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we can't just stop at life being sustained, but we actually have to move to a position where, hey, I'm not just surviving, I'm not just existing, but I'm thriving and I actually want to live. One of the things that I say a lot of times is a lot of people go through life existing, but they actually never really live because they're it's easy to just sustain life, but now to live is a whole different thing. So okay, so if a movement is an organism and it takes on, it takes different people brought
Yeah.
together to solve something. So how do you create a movement, or how do you start a movement? I believe the first thing is, one, what is the conflict that you confront, right? What is the thing? What is the problem? What is the issue? For us, for me, when I created, my organization, what the conflict that I was confronting was social isolation.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it just started of a lack of unity in our school, but I realized one of the bigger issues was social isolation. So that's what I was confronting.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: if you're never willing to confront conflict, then you will never conquer conflict. So that's the first thing for any movement. What is the conflict that you're confronting? The same goes for a business. If you're starting a business, your business has to have a clear problem that
Mm.
it solves. I also own a marketing agency, so I know a lot about the business and the marketing aspect of things. So it's like, how do you confront conflict, whether that's through a speech, whether that's through a marketing plan, whether that's through a business plan, whether that's through a nonprofit? What is the conflict that you're confronting? Now, once you have a clear conflict, the next thing is, how do you cultivate connections? And I believe connections are so important, just like the connections of the cells in your body. I believe the connections are as important in a movement. So how do you cultivate connections? One of the things I say about connections is, one, how do you cultivate connections for people? That's number one. So whether that be creating language that we can rally around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back and look at some of my old news interviews, as bad as they were,
Come on now.
I
you,
was
you did well in your news interview. So I will not let yourself put yourself down that way. No, no.
no, and at that time I was very awkward on camera, but one of the things that I always did was I always used the same language intentionally
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to rally people around language. So how do you make connections for people? Then two, how do you make connections with people, right? So whether that be via social media, whether it's creating a podcast, whether it's having a live event, whether it's having a club that's meeting every single week, how do you cultivate connections with people? And then once you're able to do those things, what happens is you begin to create a community. A community starts to form. You start bringing people together.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to get your community to do that same thing, to cultivate connections and to confront a specific conflict, right? So once that community is formed, the goal of that community is now to communicate that story. And now once you have people communicating that story, now you have a movement. I believe that's a movement. Let's take the civil rights movement, for example. let's start with Rosa Parks,
Okay.
right? If you think about Rosa Parks, when she took a seat, she actually decided to take a stand. So she was confronting a conflict, right? And now she confronted she had a conflict that she was confronting, but then she didn't just stop there. She went and she cultivated connections with people like Martin Luther King and the other civil rights activists. So now she cultivated connections, and what we see now is a community was formed, right? And now that community was formed, and they started taking on many different initiatives, right? And now till this day, we continue to communicate that story.
Mm.
So that's what a movement is. It's not an organization, but it's an organism. And that organism is committed to, making a difference. And one thing that I say about movement is I would say movements are neither good or bad, because that's all based on perception. You know, I know some people that completely despise the Black Lives Matters movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people who absolutely adore the Black Lives Matters movement. But the thing is, whether you're for or against, that movement is still making a difference.
Mm. Yeah, no.
That's my whole belief about what a movement is.
Yeah, no, like very good. I like that. Like, this is the thing. Why I also like when you mentioned going against a particular like scenario, like organization, like circumstance, that's how movements are like start to form. But I often find the most successful movements are the ones with the most simple message. Like when the message gets too convoluted and gets a little bit overstretched. Okay, look, you
Correct.
mentioned Rosa Parks, and like another one, what comes to my mind, the NRA, like the gun lobby. Now, Rosa Parks was like, yes, I'm taking my stance and everything like this. People heard about the story, they formed, and it was like, yeah, we're not going to take no buses in that area.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, before the bus companies knew it, they were like, okay, there's not many white people what take the bus. They mostly drive cars. Now that communities mobilize, and we're losing a hell of a lot of money. And
Right.
change came through with the NRA. All they've got, like, they rally to say no to get the Second Amendment like brought down. And like you're like, oh right. But when like movements sort of they started with a clear message, and then that message sort of gets diluted, like changes comes, and you kind of like go, what's going on? And like in some regards, I think that's the difference between, in my mind, that's the difference between the civil rights movement and Black Lives Matter today. Because the message from the civil rights movement was just, hey, we demand our civil rights. Like,
Right.
now give it to us. Black Lives Matter movement, it's here, there, like, it's like, okay,
Right.
it's like abolish the police. Okay, you need the police. No, like get better training for the police, transgender rights, and like, you know what I mean? Like raise up Black communities. And it's like, where are you coming from? And look,
You hit it on the money. You hit it on the money. Clarity is the most important thing. And that's why, I always start off with what is the clear conflict that you're confronting? And how do you put a specific language in place to rally people around that language? Because if not, then a lot of the message can be diluted, or people won't be able to, actually take that on. And that's why it's confront conflict and know what you're confronting before, connections are made. Because one person, his name is Donald Miller. He has a brand or company called Story Brand.
okay.
And the whole premise of his organization or his business, and they talk about communication. And the whole premise for that is, if you confuse, you lose.
Yeah.
So same thing with, if I'm consulting a business on their marketing strategy or just their overall brand in general. First, I have to identify, what is your message? What is your clear message? So for example, one of the brands that I own is something called Denver Creative. And the story behind that is, my sister and I, when we were kids in Haiti, our parents actually owned several businesses.
Okay.
So our parents, they own several businesses in Haiti. And when they own those businesses, they call those businesses Denver, because my name is Dennis and my sister's name is Vanessa.
Okay.
Now they don't own businesses anymore. But now, as we start our businesses, we also take that name Denver. And what we believe is when you work with our business, you are not just a customer, you are part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
And with family comes trust. With family comes adding value and all of these other things. But that's our brand story.
Yeah.
So now, whenever we are engaging with a family member, not a customer, then that's the values that we take on. So that's our brand story. And we try to communicate that brand story. We try to share that brand story. And we try to be very clear on what we're about, not just what we're against. Right. And so that's the thing that Donald Miller and Story Brand teaches, is the importance of clear communication. That's one thing that I had to learn as a speaker, because when I speak, I'm not a 1, 2, 3 speaker. I listen to a lot of preachers and all of these different type of people. And what happens is when I communicate, I'm used to, hey, they give me an hour and I can say 30 different things in 40 minutes, and then what I do is at the end, I tie it all back up together. That's my communication style. But whenever I'm preparing a message, whenever I'm preparing a talk or a presentation,
Yeah.
I always have to have that one clear message that I'm pushing forward, or else people won't be able to understand and also apply and take on that message which I'm trying to convey. So I agree 100%,
Yeah.
with
Like this,
everything you just said.
man. Well, why? Thank you. I shall send you money in the post.
Perfect. I'm waiting on it.
Okay. It'll be slow mail, very slow mail. It's like, um, so yeah, look, this is the thing. Getting that message across, and like, what I mean, getting like when a group comes, if a group came to you, like we've got this thing we want to take care of and want to tackle these issues. Like, what would you like? Would you just say, okay, would you start with the message or would you start with the issue? Which one would it be?
So it's really funny that you just said that, because I'm right now, there's 2 groups that I just took on, right? And literally I had a Zoom call yesterday with this, well-known individual. And then I had another group call with this, with this nonprofit. So, well, 3 in just the last day and a half alone. And every time I start anything, I always start with the messaging before you come up with what you're physically going to do. I always want to define, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What is the vision? And don't just tell me, show me. That's what I start. That's what I start with. Because the one thing that you're going to realize, and you probably know this, when you start an organization or you're trying to take on a project, there's 1,000 things that you can do, but there's probably 1 or 3 things that you should do in this season. So I know that the method can always change, but I want to make sure that the message stays the same. So whenever I start with an organization or a company, I always first start with the message. So if somebody comes to me and say, hey, we have this issue, or we have this thing that we want to solve. We have this school that we want to build in Haiti, for example. That's another thing that I'm working on right now. I always start off with the message. So the message for that is that we believe that you can't really change this current generation. we believe that you can't change this current generation, but we believe that we can raise up a new generation. And that's what we're doing, is we're raising up a new generation. Another example for, another organization I'm working with, the language for that, it's that, hey, we're not leading for a better tomorrow, but we're actually serving for a better today. We're not the next, we're the right now. And this is an organization involving young leaders. But the reason why I always put the language in place first,
right,
is because methods will come and go,
Mm-hmm.
but the message has to stay the same.
Yeah. The message is the rallying cry, as they say.
That's right.
I see. I see. Now, look, I have to ask, look, okay, you seem like a man, not so much in a hurry, but yeah, you have got a lot of plates spinning at present.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so how do you manage to keep this all in order? How do you manage to get that time to like basically put the focus and attention to each of these projects?
Yeah. One of the things I talk a lot about is time, you
Mm,
know, and a lot of people will say, I don't have time. Which I would disagree with that statement, is all you have is time,
mm-hmm.
you know. And for me, I realize that, there's, as you can clearly see, I do a lot of different things,
Yeah.
right? But everything that I do is usually always under the same umbrella. Now one thing that I'm learning now in this season is what to give attention to and what not to give attention to. So I haven't mastered this, but one of the things that I have to do is I have to be very religious of my time.
Mm,
One thing that I said, for I've been saying for a very long time, is when I was a kid, people would ask me what I wanted to do. I never knew what I wanted to do, but I always knew the type of person that I wanted to become. And, so me today, if you ask me, hey, what do you want to do in the future? I don't know what I want to do in the future. I only know what I want to do right now. I only know the type of person that I want to become. So with that, I know that I want to be the type of person is I want to have an impact on the world. I want to have an impact on society. I want to have an impact on organizations. So therefore, I'm not going to wait to a tomorrow for
mm,
something that I can start putting into action today. So what I do is I find people that are doing the things that I want to be involved in. And
mm-hmm.
what I do is I go and I add value to those people. So, for example, the project that I'm working on in Haiti, I didn't start that project, but I did come in and now I'm helping to accelerate that project. And how do I do that? I go back to what's the clear conflict that we're confronting? Who are the people that we can cultivate connections with? What do we have to do to create a community? And how do we continue to communicate that story? So no matter if I'm doing 4 or 14 things, everything is kind of in the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things, I have people that I'm working alongside, so I don't have to take the weight of that. But now on the practical level, there's certain things that I have to do to be able to survive. So one of the things that I've learned to do is, I used to be a night owl, but now I try to be in bed by 10:30, 9:30, whatever that looks like. And then I'm up by 5:30, 6 o'clock. What you'll realize is even if you work a 9 to 5, if you're waking up at 5:30 a.m. and you're getting stuff done,
Mm-hmm.
you have, let's just say from 5:30 a.m. to 9:30, right? You have about 4 hours right there, you know, for you to actually get things done right from there. So yeah, for me, I have to be very religious of my time. I do not spend, I don't spend my days texting people. I don't spend my time on various phone calls. I'm very intentional with, where I spend my time and who I spend my time with. It's like that old quote. I don't remember who said it, but it's like, first you want to decide where you're going. Second, you want to decide who will go with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get those two questions in the wrong order, then you're in trouble. Um, and I live by that.
Mm. No, I think with regards to that saying, like, yeah, I think a lot of us, we like we tend to like run into some of the people in life, which what I mean, they're our best friends. They're like the people we love and care about. But when it comes to sort of going, okay, I have a task, a goal, a mission. It's not their fault. They might not just have the skill set to help you with that sort of task, goal, or mission on that sort of day-to-day basis. So in that respect, you got to like go, look, man, I like as much as I would love you to be on this team with me, I can't take you with me. And look, we'll be able to do whatever like we do on the regular thing, but no, because I think it's Les Brown who says it this way. He goes, he's got people he talks about business with. He's got
Mhm.
people he like talks about golf with. He's got people he just talks about, yeah, the good old times. But it's like,
Right.
yeah, but it's not. He goes, it's seldom, and I might be paraphrasing here, where all of the sort of different things he has a friend which can fit into all of those groups
That's right.
at once, because it's a very sort of specialized thing. It's a pretty much like American football when you got your offense, defense, and your
That's
special
right.
teams.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I'm a very huge friend of Les. Huge fan of Les.
Mm,
I binge everything that comes out of the man's mouth. But yeah, that's exactly right. Not everybody who's there for you, or who's there with you will be there for you.
mm,
And I have all types of people that I have relationships with. But not necessarily in certain regards. And you have to almost be able to be flexible, and you have to almost be able to know, hey, who can you depend on for this
mm.
versus something else. And so for me, like, because I'm involved in so many different things, you
Yeah.
know, depending on the group that I am in, I serve in a different capacity. But that's also being flexible enough, to adapt to certain environments, but also remain true to who you are.
Very true, very true. Like, would you say, okay, with regards to what's gone on over the last sort of 15 months, with
Mhm.
like when like all of a sudden it went from super busy, yeah, 9 to 5, run, to just
Mhm.
basically nothing.
Right.
Everything stopped. Would you say you've come across people having much more of a more focused realm of time now than say before?
You know, I had a conversation with somebody about this last week.
Yeah.
I think, with the world shutting down, is what I call it. I think with the world shutting down, what has happened is that a lot of people realize some of the things that they could do. So I believe, within the last couple of months, a lot of new businesses started.
Mm,
We know that a lot of businesses failed, right? But
yeah.
we also know that a lot of new businesses started in this time. And it's because while people were sitting at home, it forced them to pivot. Same thing for me. While my plan in 2019 is I was going to spend most of my time speaking. But then 2020 comes, and then all my speaking engagements, go out the window. And, along with my finances, I had to pivot. I had to pivot.
Mm,
Um, but now, can I say, okay, now can I say people have a better sense of time? No, I don't fully think so.
mm,
Um, because I believe that majority of people, they say tomorrow. Majority of people say, okay, I have this idea. Okay. But first I have to do this, but I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I believe that most people don't do, or they don't maximize the time that they have now.
mm,
What I saw is, as soon as things, from my social media, as soon as things opened back up, everybody was focused on, okay, where are they going to go to now? What club is going to open up? Where are they going to, you know, what are they going to go do on the weekend? And it's a constant chase of pleasure, you know, and trying to essentially fulfill kind of some of their inner desires that they don't really know that they're inner desires. It's this chase after pleasure,
mm.
but what they'll realize is they won't be fulfilled because they're focusing on kind of like the feelings that they have now, but not a long-term fulfillment. So I believe that with this COVID, it did force some people to pivot.
Mm.
It did force some people to use their time wisely, or use their time in ways where they probably haven't before. But I couldn't say, that it's made anybody any more productive or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I often like one of the things I often say is in the realms of procrastination. Procrastination basically is the killer of one's dreams,
Mm,
because like when you like, okay, you know what? I'll put it off until tomorrow. I'll put it off till tomorrow. I'll put it off.
right.
And like it's like going, okay. look, I don't know how long I've got on this planet. You don't know how long you've got on this planet. No one knows how long they've got on
That's
this
right.
planet. But you could start something today, and like it doesn't like it could be walking a mile if you want to get in shape. It could be like starting the first page of a book. It could even be like, yeah, just like going, oh, you
Oh
know
man.
what? I want to go somewhere exotic and like plan out a trip. Doesn't have to be like I need to change the world and make it
Mhm.
mighty. It's just those like the step, like taking a step on the actual day when that idea comes to fruition. You're just like, oh yeah, let me start it
Yeah.
now.
Well, one of the things I say to encourage people is
Mhm.
I always say this phrase, and even in my own podcast, I say, you don't have to stay where you started, and
Mhm.
you don't have to stop where you are.
Yeah.
There's no better time than now, and then there's no better person than you. Right. And I say that to encourage people to understand that, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have a plan to end racism. You don't have to have,
Mm.
all of these things figured out. A lot of the things that I do, I don't have figured out yet. You
Mm.
know, that's why anytime I communicate, anytime I get in any conversation like this, I always say that phrase that I am not a perfect person. I am a progressing person. I am nowhere where I want to be, but I'm also very far from where I used to be. I always say that phrase.
Mm.
Just the reason why I say that phrase is because I do not want people to get this perception that like, hey, here's a person that has it all figured out, that
Yeah.
has the resources, that has the connections. No, by no means. But I am a person that I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to the journey. One of the things that I say is, you know, a successful human being knows more of what he doesn't know than what he knows, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? Like,
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, I get
yeah, like
that.
you have to know, you have to kind of know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
you have to be okay with that,
Mm.
especially in business. Like one of the things that I've been learning a lot about is, mergers and acquisitions. And with business acquisitions, you have to take this posture of like, hey, there's a lot that I don't know. There is a lot that like I just can't see, even in the due diligence process. There's a lot that I just don't know. And you have to be okay to know that there's a lot that you just don't know.
Mm.
But you know that, and you begin to know in the journey. You begin to know in the process. But the problem that most people make is they say no before ever deciding to go on the journey. And, Les Brown, one of the things that Les Brown says a lot, I also say, is that most people aren't successful not because of who they are, but they actually aren't successful because of who they think they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not smart enough. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm not wise enough. I'm not tidy enough. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough money.
Mm.
I don't have the resources. I have a bad past. I am not financially literate. It's always about what they can't do and not about what they can do.
Yeah.
It's all about the obstacles, but it's never about the opportunity. And that's the issue that, I believe that most people have.
Mm. Yeah, and like this is the thing. Love it. Love what you just said there because like this is the thing. Now, one of the things I do remember from Les Brown, he goes, yeah, um, like he said it took him a it took him a good few years before he became a millionaire
Mm,
because he didn't believe he could do it, everything like this.
right.
And like soon as it clicked in his head, he he didn't make 1 million, he didn't make two, he made several $1 million like
Yeah.
going down the road. And like the whole thing is like I think with all of this, a number of people, yeah, they do stop themselves before they actually start, but they stop themselves before they become a true practitioner
Mm,
of what you need to do. That could like when you are a practitioner, you're in the mix. You're in like you're doing the grind, and yeah, you're refining your skill, your craft, whatever it might be in, to become a better person in that. You mentioned mergers and acquisitions, right? With mergers and acquisitions, that's a hell of a lot of things. You got to be able to read a spreadsheet, know a company's health conditions, everything like this, what the market's saying, how like this company's fitted
that's right.
against competitors, and then like move it forward from there. at the beginning, like that, all of that is quite daunting.
Oh my, just look, just the belief,
Yeah.
just the belief that you can go into a deal and essentially come out of the deal with no money down.
Mm.
You have to first believe that before you can even understand that, you know?
Like no money down. Okay, yeah. Then you're talking about finance. How does
Yeah.
finance work? Because look, don't get me wrong. Like if you look out in the world, there is, I would say, 90%, like 80 to 90% of the population of this planet does not know how finance works.
Yeah.
And when no, seriously, like if you give like just a basic lesson to many people about how finances work in this world, oh my god, it'll be like giving them a superpower. It would be literally very dangerous. Oh, I gotta say, yeah.
Hey, trust me, I've been there. I've been there, you know?
Yeah, I can tell, and it seems like you're really sort of striving forward to get
Yeah,
that
I've
lesson
been there.
down.
Listen, and I'm a person, I'm very young, and I've also did some, pretty cool things at a young age. I remember the first car that I bought myself was a BMW, you know, but when I got the BMW, I had no idea, what that would do. I had no idea about credit payments and anything
Mm.
like that. Then 2 years later, my BMW gets towed, and now, my credit was trash. And now essentially then when you go into building a business and now you want to get a loan, as you're starting off your business, well, they're going to check your credit,
Yeah,
but I didn't know any of that stuff. You see what I'm saying? And it's, again, you don't know what you don't know.
yeah.
So
But this is the whole thing. This is my point. Yeah, if you had some like, yeah, I want to get a BMW, then like someone like, whoa, hold on there.
mhm.
Maybe you should get this Prius over here. I don't want the Prius. It
This
doesn't look right. no,
Toyota.
no, you're not going. Yeah, but it's $250 less on payments. You still get to drive around, and yeah, you can build one
That's
hell of a
right.
credit score if you want to start a business in the future. But no one's there to like give that lesson,
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
But but like this is the thing. I have to ask, like, what is like what is your drive? What kicked it off? No, because look, this is the thing. How old are you at this present time?
22.
20, you're 22. Okay, look. Okay, now look. You you said some rather disparaging things about people being in clubs and entertaining themselves and stuff like this. That's where I was when I was 22,
Mhm.
many moons ago. But like, yeah, what has made you sort of take this? How can I say this path of a Ronin, lone samurai type of situation? Yeah, come on, you look because 22 in Florida, Miami, spring break and all that. Look, a whole host of distractions. What's like? Come on now.
Mhm. Well, I think that, I think the first thing for me was that of what I saw, from a very young age, I did a whole bunch of stupid things, from the time I was 16, I was doing stupid stuff, I have my fair share of stories, one of the things that I realized when I was really young is like, when you're a kid, you drive around, especially down here, you drive around going to all these parties just for the police to shut them down. Then you go to another one. And when you're a guy, all you're doing is, you're going and looking for girls and then you go and repeat the same thing every single weekend. But in reality, all of those different things that we're all chasing after, it's like a game of hide and seek,
Okay.
and we're seeking something that doesn't really even fully exist. We're seeking significance in places out here, but really the significance that we're looking for is actually in here.
Mm.
And I believe that most of the actions that we take on after we meet our needs for survival is really we're looking for significance. From the guy that goes and he buys the VIP for all of his friends, and they go buy 3 or 4 bottles, like I'm not saying I'm like a bottle for $200. If you have a business, $200 can pay a Filipino, working full time for you within 1 month, you know. So I've seen people pay $70 just to stand in a VIP room.
Mm,
Not even like I'm talking about like if the rope is here, like just take a step across. And I realized all of the things that I was doing, all of the things that my friends were doing.
mm,
We were seeking significant for the people who aren't on social media and they have their money and they show their money and they show their stats. It's significance that we're looking for. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but all I'm saying, my whole message is that the significance you're looking for is not out there. The significance you're looking for is in here. The purpose you want to have is not in what you do. The purpose that you have is in the reason in which you were created.
mm-hmm,
And for me, part of my story, I think an influence on my life too has been church. I was a kid that I grew up in church. But I would say that we were always in the house of God, but it never felt like God was in our house.
mm-hmm,
So I was a kid that I was running from all that stuff. But one of the things that I learned, and one of the things that I believe in my personal belief system, is that before I was in my mother's womb, that there's a God that knew my name. And you know and so that's kind of like what drives me. That doesn't necessarily drive everybody, nor am I pushing my beliefs on anybody else. But I believe that if for the ability for me to say that I have a purpose is for me to realize that I have a creator, that I have a designer, that I am not the manufacturer of my life. And that's what I believe.
mm,
Just in the same way is if I'm putting together a puzzle, the puzzle has a picture of how to create that puzzle. If I'm putting together an IKEA desk, then I have a set of instructions. I have a manual into which I put that IKEA desk together.
mm,
But now when I look at my life, what is the picture? What is the set of instructions that I'm living my life for? What is the picture that I'm holding on to? And
mm,
I believe a lot of people, they're holding on to a picture of what they think success looks like. They're holding on to a picture of what happiness looks like. And that's fine. That's great. But the only thing I would challenge someone to question is, where did I get my picture? That's what I would say. Where did I get my picture?
mm,
Um, so that's what I challenged myself with. I realized I have this picture of what success looks like. I have a picture of what happiness looks like. And then what I realized is that the success and the significance that I was looking for was not in the partying. It was not in chasing after girls. It's not in any of that stuff, but it's in my existence and the value that I can bring. So then when I looked at my life and when I looked at the people around me, I asked myself the question, is this person adding to my life, or is this person subtracting from it? Is this person pushing me forward to who I become, or is this person pulling me away? And that's how I try to spend my time. Emphasis on the try.
yeah, like it sounds like it's a path. How can I say? It's not a path of comfort. It's definitely a path of discomfort. It sounds like to me. And like some of the choices you most probably had to make, I can imagine they must have been very tough at times. Um, would you say like if you had to choose two paths, like would you like lean for more comfort or would you lean for more discomfort, would you say?
Mm, that's a very difficult question. Um, let me answer it like this. I'm a person that I say I have no regrets,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of and some people are like, what do you mean you have no regret? What does that mean? Like, you must have not done anything bad for you to not have any regrets. And what I say is that despite whatever happened to me, despite whatever I've done, a part of that has shaped the person that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Did it hurt? Yes. Was it challenging? Yes. But it's made me who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't trade that in. So a lot of my life is actually spent in discomfort. A lot of my life is choosing who to spend time with, who not to spend time with. Where should I go to this place? Should I show up to this event? Should I, you know, because I have a picture of who I want to become, and from a young age, you heard the show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I took in that literally,
Mm.
you know, but so I have to consistently evaluate who I'm around. And it's a lot easier for people to pull you down versus you pulling somebody up. And so now, let's get into this topic. Now, why is that difficult for a person like me? One of the reasons why that's difficult for a person like me, because I'm also young, let's just say in a dating relationship.
Yeah.
Because I'm young, a person my age doesn't have it figured out. I don't have it figured out, but you know what I mean. A person my age, that they're probably not thinking in that same space.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people in my age bracket, they're probably getting out of college. They're probably trying to figure out who they want to be in life.
Mm.
And for me, I have an idea of the type of person I want to become. And that idea is not built off of that foundation of social media or just lust after other things. But now the reason why that can be difficult is because I have a picture of kind of like of who I want to become, then people in my age bracket, you don't often find that, So but then now, let's say if I move to an older age bracket, well, then a person in the older age bracket that maybe they're thinking about those things won't always necessarily go after, a person that's, younger than them. So that's one specific example.
Mm-hmm.
But the journey to building something great, and I'm not just talking about an organization, I'm not just talking about a company. The journey to building something great is very difficult. It's very challenging. There's a lot of headaches. There are a lot of moments of anxiety, but where you're going is worth what you're going through.
Mm. Now, this is the thing. Like, there's like a couple of things with what you talked about. Like, look, I completely understand with regards when you go, yeah, I got no regrets in life. Because look, here's the thing. Like, if you look at every like human being as a slab of marble, right? And you've got to like start carving into that marble. You like you can't erase when you made a carve, you cannot take that back. It is there forever. And like, this is the thing, it might be the thing what actually leads to like, if you could take it away, all of the things which may have led you to be like, yes, like a perfect statue, like David or something like that, it would be lost in the moment. It'll be like, okay, yeah. So it's like, what on earth is that? The other thing what comes to mind with yourself, like, look, you might be 22 going on like maybe 55. I'm not too sure. But I think like this is the thing. Yeah. But like, here's the thing. I think you've got a touch of the Matthew McConaughey's about you with regards to like Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you've seen this speech. He was like a famous speech. He goes, yeah, he goes, yeah, someone asked me when I was 18, who's my hero? I went, not too sure. I was like, okay. He goes, yeah, ask me in 10 years time. 10 years go by. Like, it's like, yeah, you're acting now. Everyone's like, oh, and I went, yeah, who's your hero? He goes, no, you know what? Still don't know. Maybe ask me in another 10 years time. Person comes back. It's like, right. He goes, yeah, that my hero is like, I'm like paraphrasing him. My hero is always that person who's like 10 years ahead of me. I can never catch that person, because one of the things you say a lot is, yeah, yes, progression. Because look, there are goal-oriented people, and there are people who have goals, but they see it in a slightly different way. Because when you have a goal, okay, like for example, Tyson Fury. His goal was to become heavyweight champion of the world. He got it. Got the heavyweight champion of the world. He was like, yeah, this is freaking amazing. I love it. Oh, yeah. He went to sleep. He got up the next morning, looked at the belt, went, what's next?
That's right.
He spiraled, fell apart, almost topped himself. But people who like get to like go, I have this goal, but it's a goal which keeps on growing, keeps on evolving. Those are the people which still drive on to like something greater than themselves, greater than what they thought the original process, like dream or process will give them. And like, I get that vibe about you. I might be wrong. You might be like, you might have a vision board in front of you, just above your computer right now. Like, oh, well, but you got me pegged wrong. But yeah. But how do you see yourself? How do you see like things with regards to that?
I think I don't have a vision board. I don't have a vision board made up. I've been asked, hey, you want to make a vision board? No. Because here's the thing, like I said before, it's like I want to be flexible, I don't know what my life will look like 10, 20 years from now. A lot of the things that I've been able to do, and I've been in incredible places. I've been in boardrooms of anywhere from Nickelodeon, IBM, all of these different places, all of these rooms that I've been in that I would never think to be in those rooms. A young kid from Haiti who came to this country not being able to speak the language, all of these places. But any of those rooms that I was in, it was always because I was attached to somebody else. So when I look at my life, I think to some degree, I'm a product of a lot of my mentors. One of the things that I did right at the age of 15, 16 is I would ask people, hey, would you be willing to be my mentor? And all my mentors, a lot of them are great people. Some of them are very difficult people to deal with.
I can imagine.
There's still a little bit of all of them within me. I have one mentor that she taught me a lot of what I know about business development. And she's the type of person that she can go into a boardroom with any executive and she'll create this story and she'll make this connection like I've never seen possible. She'll be able to look at something, and as she looks at something, she can see what it can become before it's even there. I have one mentor. He's a younger guy, and mid-30s, but he's the type of person essentially where when he's talking to somebody, he has a way of interacting and connecting with them. He's the type of person, he might not be the smartest person out there, but he has the most connections and people value him. So over the course of my lifetime, I've had so many mentors that have had an impact on me. And then I also take on mentors that don't even know me, like the Les Browns of the world, like the TD Jakes of the world. Those type of people, when those people talk, I listen and I believe them. Les Brown has a talk and it's titled, It's Possible. You've probably seen it. And one of the greatest things I've done in my life is just believe that it's possible. So when you ask me a question like, who do I think I am? I go back to that statement. It's like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm also not where I used to be. But one of the qualities about myself is I believe in all that I can become. I don't know all that I can become, but I believe in all that I become. And a lot of times when and I think for somebody listening, how does that apply to you? Is I believe that no matter whatever you do, there will always be people that come along and say, you can do that. There has not been one thing that I've done where I've had everything that I've done. I had more people telling me why not to do it than why to do it. Yeah. Even when I started an organization, 99% of the people say, why do that? There's already something like that. You don't need to do that. Focus on your education. Which is good advice. These people have good intentions. They don't hate you. Yeah. They just don't see that for themselves. So one of the things is you have to have the ability to say, okay, hey, you have to have the understanding to say, okay, I see where you're coming from. This person has a point. This person's not, hating on me or whatever. They have a point. And then you have to take in that information and still make a decision, knowing that, hey, if it doesn't work out, I made my decision. So when I look at my life, that's the type of person I am. I'm consistently curious. I try to live out of imagination. But I always look for people who are, kind of like 10 years ahead of me, like you were saying. I look to people I can attach myself with, and I try to be a student of everybody. You can learn a lot from a 6-year-old, and you can learn a lot from somebody who's 60. So I've just made myself a student in life. And the saying that in school, you learn the lesson and you take a test. Well, in life, you get the test and you then learn the lesson. So I'm just learning lessons from every test, and I'm trying to attach myself to anybody that I can to learn from. So a lot of the things that I say, a lot of the things that I learned, I didn't learn on my own, but there were people in my journey that contributed to that. So
yeah, sometimes I think when you say you can learn from a 6-year-old and you can learn from a 60-year-old, I think you sometimes get a little bit more common sense out of the 6-year-old than the 60. I gotta simply say, yeah,
that's right.
So it's like a kid. How comes you become so wise? I don't know. I'm a pet to play with this dinosaur. Okay. It's like, did you? Yeah. So now, here's the thing. Okay, like business leader, like community leader, speaker, and now look, upcoming author, okay, and podcaster, the last two. Weren't you busy enough without adding those last two to your
So I was, So my podcast, for example, I started off my podcast my podcast started in 2020.
Yeah.
And I started, but I probably haven't posted a new podcast in a year. I have a YouTube channel for the listeners listening. It's called What's the Move?
Yeah.
I've had videos on there for about a year, high quality videos that I've never promoted, but I don't feel bad about that. I'm not in a rush, because I believe that 2 years from now, every single one of those videos can get 200,000 views. Am I an optimist? Maybe. But and I know part of the reason I'm doing this interview is because when I started off my podcast, it was just me talking, but then I realized there's just a lot of value just getting together with somebody and having a conversation, so that to some degree from eyesight, my podcast can seem like a failure. I don't have a whole bunch of views. I don't, I'm not promoting it. I'm not consistent yet. But I know where it's going. For example, for my podcast today, I was at a coffee shop, and I was writing the book a little bit, and casual Friday. I'm usually in a suit most days, but I threw on a t-shirt, and that t-shirt said, "What's the move?" And I made about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different clothing pieces that I've never sold, but here and there I'll still take a picture. Again, why do I do that? It's because I'm not letting anybody rush me. When I say I'm committed to the journey, I'm committed to the journey. When I say I'm committed to the process, I'm committed to the process. So that's that with the podcast. Now with the book, the reason why I started writing, the reason why I got the idea to write a book in the first place was actually while I was on a plane to a speaking engagement. And I thought to myself, if this big chunk of metal went down right now, would I be satisfied with my life? And I said no. And I don't share that a lot. And here's the reason why I don't share that. Because after that moment, I had been on national television. I'd done a Super Bowl commercial. I worked with a major brand. I was getting flown out to speak all across the country. But I said to myself, I still wouldn't be satisfied. Because a lot of times what people do is they compare where they're at to where you are, and what we do the same thing, vice versa, But for me, it's like, I'm not running against the person to the left or to the right of me. I'm running against the person I was yesterday. So that at that moment, I realized like I have so much things in me that I have been communicating for a long time that if this big chunk of metal goes down, I want people to know that. I want people to know some of the things that I believe. I want people to know some of the lessons that I learned at a very young age. And to some degree, I believe I was forced to grow up fast sometimes, you know. I want people to know that. So the book that I'm writing today has been an outline that I've had for over 3 to 4 years now. So in fact, when I started writing my book, I started my book with 3 to 4 different outlines. And the problem with my book is not that I don't know what to say. The problem with my book is that I have too much to say. But so, for example, the framework that I just told you, the confront conflict, the cultivate connections, the create a community, and the communicate your story, that's part of my second book, you know. The book that I'm writing now, and I'm publishing it myself. I'm not waiting on a publisher to co-sign on my work that it's valuable. You know, I'm publishing it right now, you know, and that's called From Move to Movement. And I believe that in life, you'll either be forced to move or you'll choose to move. So I want to help people move towards their purpose. So that's what, you know, the book is for. And the book is one of the most challenging things I've done, you know. The reason why that's challenging is because before you write it, you're like, this sucks. While you're writing it, you're like, this sucks. And while you're deep into the process, you're like, okay, I think I got something here, you know. I think I'm doing something here. And then you go back to the next day, you're like, this sucks. And then, you know, you begin to have these self-talks and you begin to say that I'm not even a writer. What am I doing? You know, but then as you continue to write, you're like, no, I can do this. You know, so that's the process that I'm in now, you know. And again, I've had to put systems in place in my life to be able to do some of those things that I want to do, you know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. Like, I got to say, no, yeah, talking yourself off the ledge, like talking yourself out of being able to write that book. Yeah, it's a common thing. Same thing with like doing a podcast. Like, look, one of the things I would simply say with doing a podcast, like, okay, it's pretty much like growing bamboo. Well, water, nothing there. After year 5, before you know it, you've got something which is sprung out like, yeah, good 50 feet in no time at all. And like, look, with regards to like, yeah, I think you need to get out there and like do more of these podcasts because like, yeah, you had your partner in crime next to you, like talking back and forth. And like, yeah, I think if you got him back on or maybe someone else, like talking out, like as like the American saying, shooting the shit, as they say. It's like
the American saying.
Yeah, well, there you go.
America.
Yeah, just like, hey, I think you could have something rather special there. And like, you know what I mean? With regards and also doing a book, look, I think you're taking Les Brown's like story about having like your goals and dreams standing around you, looking down on you with angry eyes on your deathbed. Like simply like
you could have gave me life.
But now we have to die with you. And like, yeah, you are trying to eliminate as much of that as possible. Look, national TV, doing a Super Bowl commercial, like being in several meetings, all at the sort of tender age of 22. Look, I got to simply go, right, okay, no worries. Because talking to you now, and like if I just met you on the street, I'm like, yeah, I'm writing a book at 22 to like doing this about motivation and everything like this. I'm like, 22, maybe you need to see a little bit more life. But like, as I said to you in this, you're 22 going on 55 in the most positive way. But yeah, so whole thing is now, if I could give you like, say, almost a near influence, like sense of time and resources, right? What project do you think you would work towards, say, over the next 5 to 10 years? What would be like a real clear focus for
you? Yeah, so I'm the type of person that says, okay, so you said if it's infinite resources and I can do whatever.
Yeah.
I would put it into an organization that is launching other organizations. You know, as crazy as it sounds. Here's why I say this, man. Is, I'm a multi-passionate person.
Right.
Um, and that doesn't work out well when you live in a society that tells you to do one thing, focus on one thing, put your
Mhm.
energy to one thing. And let me tell you, I'm giving people that advice now. Please do one thing, because if you don't, it's a lot of stress. There will be a lot of headaches. You have to be religious with your time. So I give people that advice. Do not do this. But me, I'm a very, very, very passionate person.
Mm.
And that doesn't work well also in the nonprofit space, because in the nonprofit space, when you're the leader at an organization, you have to focus on that organization.
Yeah.
You know, I feel just as strongly about the kids in Haiti who are not getting quality educations as I do about the kid that's in the school eating in the bathroom stall by themselves. You know, so now, with my life, I want to help any of them out. They say that, hey, you can't help everyone out, but hey, I'm going to help one person out at a time. And so that's my thing. So if I had all the money in the world, is I would find kind of key projects that were dear and near to me, and
Mm.
I would find the people who can carry them out. Just because I'm passionate about everything doesn't mean I also have to do everything. So that's kind of how I'm setting up my life now. Is I have multiple projects that I'm a part of. So I'm kind of moving into the space where I'm consulting leaders. I'm strategizing and helping people build their organization. So it might not be me calling for some money and trying to fundraise, but I definitely had a hand in the language. I definitely had a hand in the marketing strategy. I definitely had a hand in the brand development. So that's the type of life that I live. I don't have to do it all, but I'm going to do what I can if I can.
Mhm. Indeed. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, now, now this is the thing. Mm, I am now like pondering, should I ask this question? It might be one of the biggest questions of the evening. I'm not too sure. Now, you know what? I'm going to ask this question. Now, okay. Yeah. Are you are you aware of the Muppets? Like Sesame Street, the Muppets and all those guys?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Okay,
am.
you are. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I have to ask, just to sort of get a little bit of an insight in your psyche. Now, if you could take one film out of all the films you've seen and replace the whole cast with Muppets, and have one person, one human actor in there, which film would you choose?
Oh man, that's that's a very, very difficult question. You should have prepped me for this in advance. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Any film, like my favorite film.
Hey, any film
Oh man, and replace everybody with Muppets.
except one actor. One has to be.
Oh my goodness. I would do the movie Hitch with Will Smith and leave Will Smith. That movie is hilarious.
So, okay. So who who would you be replacing Eva Mendes with? I just got to know. I just have my curiosity.
Listen,
It's like,
what is it, Piggy?
oh God.
Oh man, but yeah, I would do Hitch, Will Smith.
Okay, interesting. It's Will Smith. Okay. Consoling. Would he be consoling like Kermit the Frog, like training him up, or would it be Fuzzy the Bear? Who would he be?
Probably Kermit. Probably Kermit.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I like it. I like
Man.
it. Right. Coming to a cinema near you soon.
Yes, soon.
With the cast of the Muppets and Will
Oh
Smith.
man, that was such a good question.
What can I say? I sometimes have one or two of them. One or two.
I'm definitely gonna steal that for the future.
I've already got it copyrighted. So you can have it. You can have it. But yeah. Dennis, can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you on the big worldwide webs? Sorry.
Yeah, you can find me via Instagram or Facebook. Denis Denis 1N. So DENIS _ Estimon ESTIMON. And yeah, I'm a pretty easy guy to get a hold of, you know. So find me on social media, mainly on Instagram. I don't post a lot as of now because I'm doing a million things, but find me on there.
Okay, we will. Yes, listen to me, people. Find him, go out there, connect with him, and yes, mighty and great things can happen.
Let's go.
That's great. Yeah. There it is. Thank you for coming on today. You have been brilliant. You have been a superstar. I've got to say thank you once again.
Thank you.
No worries. I deserve to be thanked. I am awesome. I got to work on that thing called modesty.
Right.
One day. But let me say this. Let me say this to you, my friends, my life warriors. Thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the podcast up to the end. I got to say, please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day. Woo! Peace. And we are